when you have 70 executives from some of the biggest companies and like the largest mining company in the world and many other quite large firms between Coinbase to Marathon to Foundry to Core Scientific, etc., and you get their power players together, business happens, relationships happen, community happens.
Hey folks, Flo here with Blockchain North. We're here at the Cryptotherm Bitcoin mining equipment facility, that's a mouthful, here in Calgary. I'm here with Koleya Karringten of the CBC, who is the organizer of the fourth, what I'm calling the international trade mission. I think the word is important because you have 70 delegates from across the country, coast to coast, but also from the United States. Marathon is here, Crypto.com is here. Maybe Koleya will tell us who else is here. But why do you do these missions?
So I had a really amazing opportunity with the Alberta government, I'd say about like 7 or 8 years ago. And I got an invitation from, it was Alberta, I think it was the Alberta Trade Commission. I remember because I was about 5 months pregnant and they're like, would you like to come to a trade mission in Japan? It was the Minister of Municipalities who said that he'd like me to attend it. And I had gone on some other events with our Minister of kind of Innovation at the time. And this was with the previous government, the NDP. It was amazing. Like I flew all the way to Japan with a 9-week-old baby and got an amazing opportunity to develop out new heating systems for Boeing 737s.
That's with your own company, right? Absolute Combustion International?
I was designing combustion heating solutions, and the airport came, saw my tech, and said, let's go to Japan. And it really was transformative for me for a few years. But I realized, I was like, I'd been working across the street from the airport for 8 years, and this was I met them in Japan. Like, the relationships I built with government, with industry, I was so impressed with them that I actually traveled. I was the first female speaker at the inaugural World Heavy Oil Congress in the Middle East. I was able to attend and be at FAMEX, which is a major military conference in Latin America. So I got to travel around the world with the government promoting Alberta, promoting technology, and it was transformative. So
why do you think that is? What I mean, there's panel discussions, but that's pretty common at conferences, if we're honest. The networking, I guess, is it the fact that you spend several days together?
So I believe in what we call relationship-based business. When you are able to break bread with people, when you're able to, have drinks, when you're able to learn and educate, when you're traveling to a new destination and, you're with a group of, I don't know, 10, 20, 50, we have 70 this time, you are developing out relationships that could last you a lifetime. So
you're building community.
You're building a community. When you go to a conference, you're lucky to find an executive to a firm, right? Like, and usually you have to pay outrageous fees for some VIP area, and you maybe get an hour of their time. But when you have 70 executives from some of the biggest companies and like the largest mining company in the world and many other quite large firms between Coinbase to Marathon to Foundry to Core Scientific, etc., and you get their power players together, business happens, relationships happen, community happens. And when you're able to couple that with education, when you're able to bring together the government, the regulators, it makes monumental change. So the purpose of our trade missions was really to build community, but to rally the government of Alberta behind this industry. We wanted to showcase this is not what it was a decade ago. This isn't cypherpunks in their basement trying to develop out, obscure tokens to try and illegally sell on the market. These are publicly traded, well-respected global players, regulated global players that are looking at opportunities to expand within this province, and we're working to make it happen. Our trade mission last year with the Premier, we're very grateful for her. We only had, I think, about 23 people at the table, but 8 came internationally. And she was like, what, I see a lot of value. She understands the work that we're trying to do. And she mandated us the Minister of Service and Red Tape Reduction, who's now attended 4 of our trade missions. And what we got yesterday was our Minister of Energy, our Minister of Service and Red Tape Reduction, representatives from our Energy Ministry, Utility Ministry, our Premier for the afternoon. We received support from the Securities Commission, energy regulators, and it was all to develop out this landmark study the Alberta government wants to produce, which is a roadmap that to me is going to transform the landscape of the digital asset industry within this province. And ideally, we'll be able to take it to our federal government and encourage them to look at similar studies and really showcase support for this industry. Like my goal since I started in 2017 was to make Canada one of the top 5 destinations in the world. And I truly believe that Alberta is going to be the leader in North America for digital asset mining long term.
So there's a lot in what you just said there, and I want to try to unpack a few of those things. So first off, a comment I heard from someone here this morning is that the premier spent 3 hours with the group yesterday. I mean, 3 hours of a premier's time. If anyone knows anything about politics and government, I mean, that's a very large amount of time, especially if you equate it to the relative small size of the crypto industry to this date. So I just wanted to make that one comment. Let me know if you disagree.
Well, I would say it wasn't, it was over 2 hours, not exactly 3 hours, but I received multiple comments of no one gets 2 hours of Premier's time, especially during Stampede. And Danielle, what I appreciate about her is longtime supporter. You know, I used to be on her radio show back in, I think we met in 2017, 2018 when I was trying to pitch some of my conferences. You know, she understands the industry. She sees the value that the industry can bring. She's a champion for the space. We awarded her with, you know, a second annual Blockchain Supporter of the Year award because she truly is just a major supporter and she sees the value in it and she understands the potential to economically bring billions and billions of dollars, you know, into Alberta through supporting this industry and lay the foundation, you know, to support legislation that's going to be able to bring in the AI data centers and more powerful compute. So we can truly attract $1 trillion industry to this province and, you know, as a baseline, start that work through the Bitcoin mining community.
That's awesome. A shout out to Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, for her support for the blockchain industry. The other comment I wanted to make, and you can react to that, of course, is that I think it's unprecedented in Canada to have such high level, so premier cabinet ministers for the crypto industry. I mean, I live in Quebec. We spend a lot of time in Ontario, where I don't think that has been seen before. Is that fair to say that in Alberta you have more support for the industry than anywhere else?
So I would say this is the largest contingent. We had 23 officials and regulators supporting us, our 70 delegates over the week. This would be the largest contingent of government support the industry has seen. We were honored to have our utilities minister give us opening remarks today. On our first day, we had our deputy minister of service and red tape reduction. We have our special advisor to the premier joining us for the week. We have the deputy minister, Kasia Paquette, dear friend, you know, for this time as well. We have the Honorable Michelle Rempel joining us for this event. Of course, we had our premier and energy and, you know, Minister Dale Nally, who leads our file. We even had our Minister of Advanced Education because we're working on programs with the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology to build out advanced technical trades programs, specifically to learn how to build, maintain data centers so that we can, you know, as we attract these companies, we can also create the jobs and opportunity for them to hire locally. Yeah. So a lot of amazing support there. The Utilities Commission, Environment Ministry, big shout out to the Alberta Securities Commission. We had a big contingent of them coming in and the willingness to collaborate. Like with the consortium, I feel like what we do well is we're able to encourage government and regulators to come to the table with industry and create meaningful dialogue. Like we're not a lobby firm. We are an industry association that's just trying to showcase the amazing companies and players in this space that are doing the good work, that are paying their taxes, that are working towards regulation, that want to be seen as credible players in the technology community. And the fact that we're able to facilitate that is really an honor.
Let's do a couple of YouTube shorts or Twitter shorts. I want to ask you a couple of super quick questions. First of all, do you think the Blockchain Consortium, the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, because it is the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, could be anywhere else in Alberta in 30 seconds or less?
Absolutely. Our members are from Europe, they're from Asia, they're from America, Australia.
But my question is more, do you think without the support that you have from the government, from the regulators, you could, for example, move it to Ontario or move it to Quebec?
So the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, we are a national organization and we've met with government officials across Canada. All right, we've met with them in Atlantic Canada, you know, we've met with them in Ontario. You know, this week I was sitting with the leader of the Conservative Party for Canada, the president of the party. It's our organization serves the entire country, and I know that we could support internationally as well. The Alberta Trade Mission, the reason why we're kind of highlighting and focusing on Alberta is because you need a champion. You need one government to champion it because our industry has been going to government all across the country for years, right? But when government sees that another government is not only supporting it, putting their weight behind it, developing policy legislation behind it, then it's like, okay, there must be more credibility here. There must be more here than maybe what we've seen. Yeah. And when the government produces a report, other governments are going to pay close attention. So we've really focused in on our initial champions, like that first in, that pioneering spirit that Alberta has to offer, because we're moving this. This movement is going to go all across the country. We're coming for Ontario. We're coming for Quebec. We're coming for Atlantic Canada. We want to make sure that Canada as a whole is a friendly, open, prosperous jurisdiction for digital assets.
That's awesome, and we'll be there to help you out east especially. Let's try again, this time in 20 seconds. How would you define Canada's unique opportunity in the blockchain space vis-a-vis, for example, the United States or Europe or Asia in 20 seconds?
In 20 seconds, I would say that we have the friendliest government in Alberta supporting this industry. We have, some of the best regulatory frameworks in North America for supporting this industry. So when they come in, Alberta might be their first stop, but it won't be their last stop. They'll be able to, support being in all of Canada, but a gateway is Alberta.
Okay, so that was Alberta. My question was Canada. What is Canada's unique opportunity in blockchain in 20 seconds?
I think if we look at the digital asset mining space, our unique opportunity is that we have the third largest reserves of energy in the world that's stranded, and we could easily support 20-30% of the global hash rate on that alone.
Wow. Now that was a punchline. You talked about this roadmap survey. That really piques my curiosity because in Canada, one thing that we often struggle with is things like national strategy. I'm guessing this would be for an Alberta roadmap, but what is this roadmap and what does it try to achieve?
So the roadmap was a brilliant idea by our Minister of Service and Red Tape Reduction, Dale Nally, because he performed a roadmap on hydrogen. And the success of that roadmap attracted $1 billion into the province. And so when we were discussing the industry, and it's just like, how do we start making this change? How do we start creating policy, legislative changes? What do we do to attract? He's like, let's do a roadmap study. Let's perform a roadmap. Let's really dive in and look at this industry and determine the policy, legislation, regulation that we have that maybe could be possibly amended or that's working for industry. Let's take a really deep dive at that. Let's develop out standards for this industry. And I'm extremely grateful because he announced that at the Texas Blockchain, it's now the North American Blockchain Summit hosted by Lee Batcher, who invited him to speak, and he announced it on a major platform. People like Senator Ted Cruz were in the audience, really showing Alberta's leadership. And the minister had asked for this particular trade mission because he wanted to get engagement from the industry. It's never happened before where players in the industry get to come to government to have these discussions, to start looking at the policies. Normally we're coming and going, okay, there's already a lot of pre-existing policies and now we're trying to advocate for change. They're like, okay, let's start, from ground one. Let's look at what we have. Let's look at what needs to be changed. Let's look at how we can support and attract you, and understanding that attracting the digital asset industry, the Bitcoin mining industry, is also going to attract, the AI data center industry, right? If you want to attract these billion-dollar players, these massive compute data centers that are going to create mortgage-paying jobs, they need to have legislation. They need to have clear regulatory path and framework. They need to have their red tape reduced. They need to be able to understand what's the landscape politically, and Bitcoin miners are paving the path for that.
And final question, we'll talk again, of course, many times in the future, but what is your main call to action and to who?
So I would say my main call of action is really to the industry. Get engaged with the consortium, get behind the work that we're doing with this government, get involved in this landmark study that's not just going to support the digital asset industry and mining, but also in financial services. Let's make this a national movement together.
Wonderful. And of course, you could also engage with Blockchain North, one of the CBC's most trusted allies, Canada's only media company in the blockchain space. So, right?
And a very dear friend.
Of course, since 2012, I believe, 12 years. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Koleya.